Good morning and welcome back to Talking Racine. And George Myers is with us this morning, as usual.
Yep.
And
As usual, yeah.
Jim Spodek, the producer without whom this wouldn't be possible.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
I don't even mean to put a target on you, but
Yeah.
I'm Dr. Jorgen. We're going to talk about the involvement of the City of Racine and the Center for, Tech and Civic Life, and all of that stuff that went on in the last election. Now, the hot government has made a request in March. I'm going to just bring you up to date on some of these dates and the time frame and what's going on here. In March, a records request was filed by Hot Government, which is a local organization for honest, open, and transparent government. That's in March
Of this year.
2021.
Right.
Yeah.
In July, a second inquiry was made because there had been no response to that initial request. So the request was sent in again, and it's like, what is going on? You know, you're supposed to comply with this. You're supposed to, and I'll read you some of the statutes excerpts. You're supposed to at least respond. Well, they still were dragging their feet, but then there was a threat of legal action where an attorney got involved and wrote a letter to them and warned them, you know, you're supposed to comply with these records requests, and if you don't, there's going to be some legal repercussions. Then they did respond. Now this was in August. They finally responded a little bit. They sent several hundred emails. Originally, they did respond, but they said it was like just in a conversational type of report. There are tens of thousands of emails that are going to be involved in this request. It's humongous. It's just overwhelming. Then when they actually did finally send some things out, it was like a few hundred, several hundred, much of which was repeats and duplicates. You know, when you send out an email, if I send it to Jim and he sends it to George, it could be the same material, but it's counted as two emails. So there was a 5-month delay, basically, between the receipt of anything that was included in that request and the initial request. What does the statute say? Well, this is one of the statements at the very beginning of the explanation of the records request. This is one of the strongest declarations of policy found in the Wisconsin statutes. That's right in the preface to it all. The denial of public access generally is contrary to public interest, and only in an exceptional case may access be denied. So they're saying, look, you know, this is really important. It's primary that the citizens have access to public records and know what officials are doing. Here's another one. The general rule is that, except as otherwise provided by law, any requester has a right to inspect any record. So I think you get the idea that there's a real deficiency going on here in the City of Racine. What's interesting a little bit further on here, compliance at some unspecified future time is not authorized by the public records law. The records custodian has two choices: comply or deny. So, you know, there is a little bit of wiggle room there, but the timing response is as soon as practical and without delay. The public records law does not require a response with any specific date and time, such as 2 weeks, 48 hours, etc. But the Department of Justice policy is that 10 working days generally is a reasonable time for responding. Well, the City of Racine didn't respond for months, so they're definitely in violation of the intent of this statute. They also say requests for public records should be given a high priority. One of the things I noticed here was, you know, there's always case law.
Yep.
That's included, and one of the cases was the Journal-Times versus the City of Racine, which was included in the statute as this is an example of a problem. You know, study this case
Why
to see how
does
it's
Racine
supposed to be done.
continually come up when there's, you know, a difficulty getting open records? It's time and time again.
You said that Ledney was a habitual offender of the open records request.
Yeah, absolutely.
In fact, he was said in the paper after after the lawyer came after him, he says, you know, they didn't even make a second request.
Yeah.
It was automatic. We don't answer the first request. You have to make a second request.
Well, there are open records
then
there,
we start
George,
to move there.
that are not fulfilled. There's multiple open records that the city has that have not been fulfilled. But I mean, I guess the reason we bring this up is there was when those records that Doc talked about were not completely fulfilled at the end of August. Hott filed a mandamus, which is to force a judge to say, we want all these records released. That date was then, the hearing for the first hearing was October 28th, this coming week. Now, what's happened in between this period of time is that there's an investigation in the state of Wisconsin that we've talked about before, where Voss has signed subpoenas for Judge Gableman, who is doing an investigation, who has now dropped subpoenas into the City of Racine asking for the same thing that Hott's been asking for.
It's records pertinent
Yes.
to the last election and the involvement of the Center for Tech and Civic Life.
Correct.
And all of the money that poured in through them by way of Zuckerberg.
Correct.
Mark Zuckerberg.
Right. And Racine, I think, was a little over about $1.2 million, which is a lot of money. Where's the money? How was it used? And was there violations of the clerk's office or whatever? So anyway, so what's happened now is on the 28th, that hearing has been postponed. The case is still active, but it's been postponed because apparently the city has come to some terms that said, if we go to court, we're probably going to have to overturn and give these records to Hott. But we're also having to give these records to Gableman. So apparently we don't have specifics on it, but apparently that they are going to turn over all the information that the Gableman investigation is asking for and that Hott is asking for. So I'm assuming that there should be this week, some of those emails should start to show up.
Yeah.
We'll see. Now, I don't know if this is exactly how it should play out, if Hott should have just went to court and forced that issue, or if this is the best way to handle it. But what's also spurred out of that, just recently, Corey Mason was subpoenaed, and he was going to be in under this investigation. He said if he was willing to be interviewed for this investigation, but he wanted to do it in public, with the media there, and preferably in front of the legislature. Well, I don't know about you guys, most investigations don't work like that.
No.
And what would be his reasoning for wanting it displayed to the public, an investigation into his involvement with CTC?
Well, public relations is the first thing that comes to my mind. He wants to work the crowd. And you mentioned that earlier. He wants to work the crowd. He wants to get everybody to hear his side of the story and sort of muddy the waters a little bit, I think.
Well, there's another possibility, and that is that he knows darn well that's not going to happen, but he wants to say it in public so that it sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wide open, but I insist that this be done publicly, and I want everybody there to hear it, knowing darn well that that's not going to happen, but it sure sounds good for him to say that.
I was there willing to go in front of the public. That's
Yeah.
true. But the other one is, I watched politicians lie under oath. I mean, it's almost like they're a natural for that. So for Corey to lie under
The problem with politicians, they don't know when they're lying and telling the truth.
That's
Some
true.
have just lost track of it, Jim. Not that they can get away with it. They just forgot
that's a
what
good
the
defense.
truth was.
I don't know the truth anymore.
Wait, let's see. Now, let me think. Which of the things?
I don't recall.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I don't recall it.
Yeah, exactly. But I think he would boldface lie. I think he would lie. The media would then take that lie and then spin that lie to Corey's advantage, really.
And you think he could get away with lying, and he wouldn't get prosecuted for perjury and because he's saying it under oath. Remember,
Okay, George. Let me do a little quick video here. It'll take about 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Let me play this video.
I'll wait 5 seconds for
All
you,
right,
Jim.
then we'll come back.
You're generous with your time, George.
That's what
you
you
know
said
what?
5 minutes ago.
This is ridiculous.
It's not ridiculous,
Yes,
sir.
it is.
No, it's actually
Ridiculous.
not. We're done. Mayor Dickard, first line on Exhibit 81, and under your system, we accepted several illegal campaign contributions. That's what it says, right? You walking out? Don't turn the camera
No,
on.
the deposition's
You
over.
walking out?
The deposition's over, Brian. Enough with the theatrics.
We accepted several illegal contributions. What'd you do about it?
I did not
The
until my staff to
deposition's
make sure
over.
they're cleaned up.
What'd you do about it?
Deposition's over.
Exemplary performance by
Yeah.
a masterful politician.
Absolutely.
And he got away with it.
You got
too,
away
that's
with it.
what
Nobody,
you're saying,
nobody questions them. Now the questions are getting harder. Wait a second. I can't answer that truthfully. I can't even lie my way out of this because you've got the documents. So I'm just going to get up and leave.
You know, I planned on being out of here by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
My
gotta
time
go.
is very
Yeah,
valuable.
yeah.
I got to go.
It's my coffee time.
Yeah, see, that's what I mean. And nothing happens to these guys. It doesn't matter. Lie under oath, so what? You know, millions of dollars are missing. Well, so what? You know, it's okay.
I don't know where it went.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the time and place we live in now, and this is where I think it's very important that people understand. You know, you really have to get involved in politics. You really have to get involved in your communities because, you know, it's a game. It's really become a game to a lot of politicians, and it's become very fruitful.
Well, it's how you can work the system with a lot
Yeah.
of politicians. They're playing king. They're playing, ruler of the domain. And how do you make money out of this? I mean, should be able to do it. I mean, that's part of the
Yeah.
position.
Yeah.
You know, you make money.
Well, and the more money you spend, the higher your personal value.
True.
Because all of that money, that's a big responsibility. So you should be compensated for spending it more if you spend more.
That's right.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess the bottom line.
Political logic.
Politically logical, right.
Doc's diary on political logic.
But what is, I think, kind of interesting because as soon as this settlement was made, where Gableman's investigation and Hott was going to get these emails, all of a sudden Corey comes out and says, "I'm willing to go and investigate it in front of the media and in front of the legislature, and everything in the wide and open." Well, what that tells me is that the pressure is mounting. That you're starting to see, like we brought this up, and I think Doc, we were talking about this before. We started in Green Bay with these emails that we saw Racine was sending to Green Bay. Vicky Selko and Tara Coolidge and of course Corey Mason was doing Zoom meetings with them. And we said, this is going to come down the shoreline. It's going to end up in Racine.
Well, you were the first guy to really suspect
we were.
Corey.
We were,
Yeah.
We pulled this out early on, and now we're getting a lot of attention. I'll say that Wisconsin is, and even talking Racine and individuals are, and we're getting. They're looking at Wisconsin, you might say.
Are you getting nervous with all the attention we're getting?
No, not really.
No, I mean,
it's
I could
about
care
time.
less.
Actually, it's about time. But we brought up a lot of different things. We brought up Foxconn. Go back to Foxconn.
Oh, yeah.
We stood here in 2017 and said, "Don't do it. It's not going to work. It's the chances of this actually happening is very slim." We did charts and showed them how the money was being dispersed and how that was not going to work. Machinery Row, the arena. I mean, where you guys want to go? I mean,
Well, we were showing how risky it was.
yeah.
I don't think we never said we don't hope this doesn't work.
No,
we didn't
not
say
at
that.
all.
We just said
We want good things.
We went through the stuff. We went through the philosophy of the Chinese philosophy. There has to be a winner and a loser type of thing. Is where in America you can make a deal and both sides win. So we went through all that and said this is just really risky.
Yeah,
to put this kind of money out for.
So was the arena, George. That was another
yeah,
one.
no, that's
We
right.
looked at and Machinery Row. I mean, that was
that was fraud. I mean, we were
Yeah,
looking at fraud.
that's fraud.
on that one, yeah.
And now we just because of Machinery Row, we were introduced to Middletown, Ohio.
Middletown, Ohio, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really blown up over there.
Oh my gosh!
The last 2 weeks we've talked about that, and man, I don't know how to tell people. I don't know how to tell you guys to go and look at what's happening over there. But that is an interesting story.
Yeah.
Is there a link or something you could put up where
I
they
could
could
throw a link up on.
yeah.
It's like our arena on steroids. And
Yeah.
that little community, they only got 60,000 people. They're actually smaller than we are. They were going
51,000.
Yeah. What is it, 51?
Yeah, 51.
On a $1.3 billion project. Ours was just 50 mil,
Yeah.
So these people, but they are biting back. I mean, they
weren't going to be on the hook for 1.3 billion to
was
start out with.
Yeah.
It's not going to be your money. Okay, well, we can get into that some other time, but
Yeah.
that's an interesting story there, and that mayor down there, I
Kudos to her, huh?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
she's a sharp one.
Yeah, she asked a
Yeah.
lot of very pertinent questions.
Yeah,
We don't have somebody down here, other than us and a few other people in the community, like Racine Uncovered does some things, and what is it, Racine County Corruption?
yeah.
They
Well,
do some
Sandy
expose.
Sandy Widener was on the council. We were getting some questions.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
She was,
Well, now that you bring Sandy up, let's just take. I'm going to play a quick video of
Okay.
Sandy. She was interviewed by Online American News, OAN, and she was on voter what she perceived as a poll worker in Racine. So, and this is why I'm saying we're getting a lot of attention, national attention now. It's starting to focus in on Racine, and they're really looking at a lot of the people we know, what we've uncovered. So let me
But
just play this
it's going to be interesting to see if other communities pick up on this dialogue that's kind of like circulating around. Middletown did,
Yes.
and I'm sure they're not the only community
No,
that's
exactly.
going through
Exactly.
that. So,
Let me just. I'll play Sandy quick, and then we'll come back.
A longtime poll worker in Wisconsin says she was suddenly turned away in 2020. One America's Christina Bobbs spoke with her and has this report.
And you had said some of the questions on the application were questionable. What types of questions were they?
Well, question number 9 on the application especially concerned me. It asks something to the effect of, do you believe in the election process in the state of Wisconsin? So it would be assuming that you knew something untoward about the election process. So it really kind of surprised me, and I actually addressed that question in my response on that application and asked, should this question even be appropriate on an application, which also was something new. All the previous times that I had served as a poll worker, I had never had to fill out an application. Just my name was on a list, and
Right.
if they needed me, they would call me. If training was needed, they would let me know, and I would attend the training. So it was a pretty informal process prior to this new regime or administration in City Hall.
And it's a bit odd that they would be turning poll workers away while the mayor was going on television saying we're having a shortage of poll workers.
Well, it was absolutely astonishing. And then I know when I went and voted early, I was surprised to see the poll workers that were there. One was a city employee, the other was maybe in her 90s and someone I'd never seen before, but that doesn't mean that she hadn't been a poll worker before. And then the 2 young people that were taking the application or the ballot in the envelope at the end were high school students, because I remember I talked to the one young lady to the degree where she had forgotten to sign my ballot envelope. And we were talking about her being a high school student.
Was she even 18?
She said she was in high school, so she may have been 18, but it would be stretching to think that she was.
Wow.
So I was a little surprised by that, because I had not seen poll workers that young prior to this election.
Right.
And then what happened with my ballot was, because we were talking about her being in high school, she did not witness the envelope on my ballot and put it in the box. And then 2 days later, I remembered that she hadn't signed it, and I know that's I so seldom actually vote absentee. So oh my gosh, she didn't sign the envelope. So I called the clerk's office several times that Monday and Tuesday and didn't get a call back. So then I called the county clerk, who I know, and I said, I'm just kind of in a panic that my vote is not going to count because the poll worker didn't sign the envelope after I'd stuffed it with my ballot. And she said, well, we would consider that an administrative error, and we would just go ahead and sign it. So
They would just sign it.
after the fact.
So if somebody got access to extra ballots, put a whole bunch of them in, they would just sign them and approve them.
Correct. That was the county clerk that told me that. So in one sense, I felt assured that my vote was going to count, but on the other,
Oh
my question
goodness.
was...
everybody else's vote's going to count too, whether it's lawful or not.
Yeah, doesn't that violate our state statutes regarding
Wow.
processing absentee ballots? or maybe all that I've known all these years no longer applies, and I think that's the reason why my services as a poll worker was not desired.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for giving us some time and telling us your story.
So happy to do that.
We knew about that. Now
Yeah.
you do too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, what's interesting is now the focus is now coming to the scene. So Corey, Vicky Selko, Tara Coolidge. The limelight is now probably I'm going to call it. They don't certainly look at it as a limelight, but it's on them, and we're gonna let's get to the bottom of it. Let's straighten it out. So this kind of stuff doesn't happen. It shouldn't happen. We should feel confident in our vote.
well, it certainly looks like somebody should be in trouble. Whether or not that actually manifests that way or not is going to be difficult. But we've talked before about how the city clerk is in charge of the elections by law.
Correct.
And that's not what happened here in Racine and Milwaukee and Green Bay and Kenosha. What was the other? Was that it? Was that 5?
Madison.
Madison, right. How
Madison,
could I forget
Milwaukee.
Madison,
Yeah.
City? So the clerks, they either abdicated their responsibility or were subverted in their responsibility. But, there's some things that happened out there that really should not, by law, have been allowed.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I'd like to just read the law here real quickly because people should understand this. What Doc said there is absolutely correct. The law was broken. Right here, this is out of the Wisconsin election statutes. All right, the cost of acquisition of ballot boxes and voting booths, voting machines or electronic voting systems, and regular maintenance of thereof shall be borne by the municipalities in which the boxes, booths, machines, and systems are used. The municipalities have to pay for it, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason why they don't want public money coming in and being used for this. Okay? And I
No,
think
that is public money.
No,
Well,
you're
you mean
talking about
private
grant money.
Private money comes in and being used by the clerks. There's a reason for preventing that, and that the municipalities must pay for it. Here's the rest of that paragraph. Except as otherwise expressly provided, all costs for ballots, supplies, notices, and any other materials necessary in preparing or conducting any election shall be paid for by the county or municipality whose clerk or board of election commissioners is responsible for providing them. Now, what was that? What was all those hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars that we got from this Zuckerberg outfit to help run the election? That was in violation of that law. So the fact is, the law was violated. Now, what are we going to do about it? That's what we're getting the open records requests and getting the information and the data about to show how this law was violated and who was violating it. And that's where suddenly Corey Mason and Vicky Selko and Tara Coolidge are now going to find themselves on the hot plate because
I think and I've said it before because we did get some of the information from the city, and it's amazing how they can't find information on Vicky Selko and some of the other areas there, but they certainly could find it on Tara Coolidge.
Well, and
And there are
also
some
think
damning emails with her.
And I thought it was also interesting how the tens of thousands of emails on Vicky Zelko all of a sudden got down to just a couple hundred of them, and you can see in light of this statute what a couple 100,000 emails might, tens of thousands of emails might show. So
Well,
that
I'm
had to be
really
covered real
interested in
quickly,
seeing,
yeah.
but there's going to be redactions on this material.
Well, yeah, you're talking about things blocked out within
yeah.
the thing. Yeah.
And I think, typically you get something and there's personal information that's blocked out, it's protected
That's going to get
by
blocked
law.
out, but it
But
shows.
I think that, and other times you see like redactions, there's 5 words on a page that you can read. I think I would not be at all surprised if it looks like somebody took a paint sprayer to these records once they actually show up.
Well, we're going to find out. I mean, it's okay. Last thing. I don't know. I didn't bring this up to you guys earlier, but
Uh-oh. Producer's privilege?
yeah. Anyway,
that we get after Corey for all of these direct referrals.
Anyway, at the end of the show, I'm going to show some of the stuff. He's canvassing. There's a group. Well, there's multiple groups, I guess. in the state that are now going on. The voter rolls. There's 7 million registered voters in the state of Wisconsin. There's only 4.2 million actual people that are 18 and older that can't actually vote. So there's a wide variety of either
People moved, people died, but they're still
Yes.
maintained as
and some of it
having
they've been
been-
going through this voter roll and then connecting it to addresses. So what you see, and I'm going to bring it. I'll bring the pictures up at the end, and I'll just kind of put them down. But you'll see assisted living facilities that have 300 registered voters on a beds of 40-bed facility. So what happens here is obviously a person passes on, and that voting it remains. And instead of cleaning it up and having people re-register and getting
Well,
that,
they do that, but there's some slop in the system.
well, there's 3 million sloppy,
Yeah.
and when
At
they talk-
least 3 million. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So when you see these things, and you go, and there's lots, and there's cottages, and there's a lot of homes that are just nice homes, but they got 10 people registered to vote in those homes. It's got to get cleaned up. But anyway, I'll show those at the end of the thing. But it is interesting to see people are starting to take an interest in this our system, and which is good at all levels. So
I totally agree, because it's been a lot of disinterest for a couple hundred years.
and that's really our fault. I mean, if you don't, we assumed everything was going to run right, and the right people were in office, and they were going to be honest and forthright, and we found that there's a lot of them that aren't.
Well, it's a good system.
It is
But-
a good system.
You got to have good people inhabiting that system in
Right.
order for it to run the way it's intended.
Exactly.
and I would like to just put in my little 4 points here at this point. A really good system, an honest election system, consists of voters who are in person, on paper, hand counted, and we do it in one day. That it gets your best security. Anytime you get away from that, you open the door for corruption. And my problem with that is, if you open the door for corruption, dang it, it always happens.
Sooner or later.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to happen. You can't leave the safe half open and expect no one's ever going to break into it. You're going to go in and get it.
Well, I could leave the safe open in my house. Nobody would break it.
Yeah, unless you got nothing in there. Yeah, that's true.
But I'd leave it open, hoping they'd come and drop by with a couple of bucks. So anyway, that's it for today. And what we want to say is, next week, come back and see us, Layla.
Layla?
Make sure you don't miss the next show.
Thanks for being here.